Can you imagine a profession that is supposed to save lives becoming a profession that takes lives? No, right? Because I cannot imagine that something so evil as this can ever occur. But here we are, living in this world full of evil. The person you are looking at right now has murdered more than 250 of his own patients. You all must be wondering how it is possible to kill such a huge number of people without raising any suspicion. It has all happened because his patients trusted him, and because he had a very good name in the field. So, what could be the possible reason to stoop to this level? Was this person psycho, or was he doing all this for a particular motive? Well, in this video, we will be explaining the attempts, and in the end, you will be telling us in the comments what were the reasons for these monstrous acts. So, let's dig deeper into the details of this doctor. The full name of this man is Dr. Harold Shipman, who is also known by the name Dr. Death. Harold Shipman was born in 1946 in Nottingham, England. Throughout high school, he was a promising student who not only excelled in studies, but was also in athletics, notably rugby. But Shipman's life altered when he was only 17 years old. Vera, with whom Shipman had a very close relationship, was afflicted by lung cancer. While she was dying in the hospital, Shipman witnessed how the doctors relieved her pain by giving her morphine. Some experts believe that this was the catalyst for this cruel killing spree and modus operandi, and this was the time of his life when he decided to pursue a medical career. After his mother died, he got married to Primrose May Oxtoby while he was studying medicines at Leeds University Medical School. They lived a happy married life and had 4 children together. His wife had no idea what her husband was thinking or what he intended to become once he began practicing medicine. He graduated in the 1970s and began his career as a junior doctor, but he soon rose through the ranks and became a general practitioner at a West Yorkshire medical facility. The killing spree of the doctor started in 1975 when he killed his 70-year-old patient named Eva Lyons just one day before her 71st birthday. Shipman had obtained enough diamorphine to kill hundreds of people at this point, but no one was aware of his addiction until the following year. It was 1976 when it was found out that the young doctor had a problem with addiction and had been using Demerol, an opioid that is typically used to treat severe pain. He was immediately fined, sacked, and ordered to attend a rehab clinic in New York. Harold Shipman appeared to recover rapidly and resumed employment at Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde in 1977. He would spend the next 15 years of his career here before going solo in 1993. He earned an excellent and helpful reputation among his patients and in his neighborhood. His bedside manner was legendary, and this was the reason why he didn't get caught for the sinful acts he had been committing for a span of around 20 years. No one knew that at the same time, the good doctor was secretly killing his patients. Despite being sacked that year for falsifying prescriptions, Shipman was not expelled from the General Medical Council, the doctor's governing body. Instead, he received a letter of warning. But this warning letter was not enough to stop this killer doctor from his patient hunt. Only hours after Shipman visited one of his patients, an 81-year-old widow, she was discovered dead at her home in 1998. Her family was perplexed by her sudden death because she appeared to be in good health. Her will had been amended to favor Shipman, which gave him her entire fortune, estimated to be worth around $400,000, and Shipman's request that no autopsy be performed. In all, it is believed that he killed 71 patients while working at the Donnybrook practice, and the remainder while operating his one-man practice. However, undertakers in his hometown of Hyde were suspicious of the number of Shipman's patients who died in 1998. The nearby medical practice noticed that its patients died at a rate nearly 10 times greater than their own. They reported their concerns to the local coroner, who then contacted Greater Manchester Police. Shipman's reign of terror could have ended here, but it didn't. The police investigation failed to carry out the most basic of checks, including whether Shipman had a criminal record. If they'd asked the medical board what was on his file, they'd have uncovered that he had forged prescriptions in the past and he had been a drug addict. Cunning Shipman also hid his tracks by adding false illnesses to the records of his victims. As a result, the investigation didn't find any cause for concern, and the deadly doctor was free to keep killing. So, when did he get caught? Well, the time was near. In August of the same year, Shipman's crimes were finally uncovered after he made the mistake of trying to forge the will of one of his victims, 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy, a former mayor of his town of Hyde. After Shipman administered a lethal dose of diamorphine to Grundy, he selected the cremation box on her will to hide the evidence. Then he used his typewriter to write her family out of the will entirely, leaving everything else to him. However, Grundy was buried, and her daughter Angela Woodruff was the one who had to put an end to the murder spree of Dr. Shipman when she was notified about the will by local solicitors. Immediately, she suspected foul play and went to the police. The whole thing was incredible, Woodruff said of the situation. Mom signing the papers and leaving everything to her doctor seemed unthinkable. The idea of signing a document that was so poorly worded made no sense. Grundy's body was unearthed in August 1998, and diamorphine was discovered in her muscular tissues. On September 7th that year, Shipman was detained. And this was the time when, over the course of the next 2 months, the bodies of another 11 victims were found. A police expert also examined Shipman's surgery computer and determined that he had inserted bogus entries to support the phony causes of death he claimed on the death certificates of his victims. Simultaneously, Shipman argued that Grundy was addicted to a substance such as morphine or heroin, citing his notebooks as proof. However, after her death, authorities discovered that Shipman had written the notes on his computer. Later, the police managed to verify 14 other cases where Shipman had given lethal doses of diamorphine, falsely registered the patient's deaths, and tampered with their medical histories to show that they were dying anyway. His motivations were unclear. Some speculated that he was seeking vengeance for his mother's death, while others speculated that he thought he was performing euthanasia, removing from the population elderly people who would otherwise have become a burden on the healthcare system. Another hypothesis is that he took pleasure in knowing that, as a doctor, he possessed the power of life and death over his patients, and that killing was the only way in which he exercised this authority. Despite his fabrication of one of his victims' wills, money gain does not appear to have been a serious motivator because of the profession he was working in. Here, one key question that plagued investigators was how such a large number of deaths could have occurred without raising suspicion of foul play. This was all the more baffling because Shipman's patients were normally healthy shortly before their encounters with him. The fact that Shipman took advantage of his patients' trust in him as a doctor made his crimes particularly odious to the public. Here comes the day for which the people have been waiting for a long time. Shipman's trial began at Preston Crown Court on October 5, 1999. He was charged with the murders of 15 women by lethal injections of diamorphine, all between 1995 and 1998. The legal representatives of Shipman tried very hard to tie the case of Grundy to some other issues, but were unsuccessful in doing so. The jury convicted Shipman guilty of 15 counts of murder and 1 count of forgery on January 31, 2000. Mr. Justice Forbes then sentenced Shipman to life in prison on all 15 counts of murder, with the recommendation that he be subject to a whole life sentence to be served concurrently with a 4-year term for forging Grundy's will. The General Medical Council declared Shipman off the medical register on February 11, 2000. 2 years later, Home Secretary David Blunkett confirmed the judge's whole life tariff just months before British government ministers lost their power to set minimum terms for prisoners. While authorities could have brought many additional charges, they concluded that a fair hearing would be impossible in view of the enormous publicity surrounding the original trial. Furthermore, the 15 life sentences already imposed and rendered further litigation unnecessary. Shipman became friends with fellow serial killer Peter Moore while in prison. Shipman kept on denying his guilt till the end. He never made any provocative statements about his actions.
Lily Crossley, if you'd like to look at that. just for the benefit of the tape. Dr. Shipman's eyes are closed and he didn't look at the photograph at all. Can you remember Lily Crossley at all? Okay, no answer. If I can also, it's going to be awkward this keeping standing up and walking around, but I think this is what we're going to have to do. You might want to just sit back a little bit as you and I don't keep pushing in front of you. We'll now move on to the next death which we've investigated. Dr. Shipman. This is in relation to the death of a lady called Elizabeth Pierce. That's Elizabeth Pierce. The three ladies there, it's the elderly lady dressed in black. For the benefit of the tape, Dr. Shipman's eyes are closed and he did not look.
Would you want to make any comment, Doctor? There's no comment.
And the time is 4 minutes past 5. And that's the end of the interview.
His wife, Primrose, also supported her husband and claimed that he was innocent. Shipman is so far the only doctor in history who has been charged with killing his own patients. It was 8:10 in the morning of January 13, 2004, which was also the 58th birthday of Shipman, when news circulated that he had hanged himself in the prison and had died. According to Her Majesty's Prison Service, he used his bedsheets to hang himself from the window bars of his cell. Following Shipman's death, his body was transferred to the Medico-Legal Center mortuary for a post-mortem examination. After an inquest was opened and postponed, West Yorkshire coroner David Hinchcliffe eventually returned the body to his family. However, the families of his victims felt cheated by the news. Because of the suicide, they would never have the confession or answers to the crimes he had committed. The news of the suicide attempt by the doctor divided the whole nation, as some newspapers called him a cold coward and condemned the jail authorities for letting him attempt suicide, while others run a celebratory front page with the headline, "Chip Chip Hooray." Shipman's motive for suicide was never established, though he reportedly told his probation officer that he was considering suicide to assure his wife's financial security after he was stripped of his National Health Service pension. Primrose Shipman received a full NHS pension. She would not have been entitled to it if Shipman had lived past the age of 60. Shipman was cremated at Hutcliffe Wood Crematorium on March 19, 2005. Later report. A government inquiry was ordered to determine how many more patients Shipman may have murdered. In 2005, an official report found that he had killed an estimated 250 people beginning in 1971. In most cases, Shipman injected the victim with a lethal dose of the painkiller diamorphine and then signed a death certificate attributing the incident to natural causes. That was all from this video. We can only hope that the family of the victims are now okay and that time has healed their wounds. Tell us your thoughts in the comment section below.